All right, everybody, welcome back to Nuggets of Nothing. To my right is Jacob.
Hello.
And I am Delivan. This podcast is purely about trying to figure out what weird things that we can learn in a week and bringing them here to the episode to be able to talk to you guys about them and possibly help you guys learn something and, maybe make you laugh. So, JJ, do you think they're going to laugh at your topic this week?
I don't know, they might laugh at the dogs. The second that you started recording, both of my dogs were like, "It's time to be held," and they just start climbing up my legs right now. And they're not big dogs, but they're not small dogs. They are not big enough to be climbing on my legs right now. But yes, my topic overall is humorous.
I was going to say, my topic is not. My topic talks about finance, and because my topic talks about finance, nobody finds that funny ever.
People are just going to skip to mine. We'll put a...
We'll have to put a marker in time. We'll make it. We'll make finance funny. We can do that.
Or interesting. I guess it's got to be one of the two.
Well, it's definitely not going to be interesting, but we'll have to make it funny. Let's make it funny. All right. So I'll just go ahead and get started with mine. That way we can just
go for it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you why the Grinch wasn't wrong. The reason that he wasn't wrong is because a recent study done by the Lending Tree shows that 61% of Americans are dreading the holidays due to increased spending, with 57% of Americans specifically having angst over Christmas.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, for the most part, when you think about the holidays in general, just take the holidays out of it, just that time of year just seems like super stressful all the time. And then you add that on top of it, just makes it even more stressful. I mean, because you start to run into bad weather depending on where you live. So that doesn't really help a lot. And so, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's not super surprising that this is the case, but to actually put some quantifiable numbers to it, I mean, that's... You know what? And I kind of wonder with this study if it doesn't have a lot to do with the fact that this is a COVID year. So people might just be economically hurting in general. And so they're like, oh, this year I definitely feel worse about Christmas than what it... It's a recent one. It was a study done this year. So it kind of seems like that might be a little skewed because of that. But I bet those numbers still aren't too far off.
No, I mean, I bet it is heightened, but I bet that for sure. I bet people feel that. I feel that way. But that's the whole message of the Grinch movie, is that it's too capitalist, it's too money and presents oriented instead of family and happiness oriented. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of it. The dog just sneezed on my foot. They are in a real mood today.
I was gonna say, I just saw you point to your dog. Didn't say anything, but you pointed to the dog. Okay, I just couldn't hear the snap.
They're trained to respond to whistles. One dog is trained to respond to snaps.
Okay.
And
it's a good way to do it.
That's the whistle one. You can't see him on the camera. Never mind. Don't worry about it, everybody.
Oh,
and
good.
There's your dog.
There's my dog. What the hell are they doing in there? Rachel's supposed to be taking care of them.
I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be doing that, is my point.
But yeah, the whole thing about Christmas anyway is it's kind of a dark past. I mean, because I guess the church has made it seem like is that's Jesus's birthday, but really the whole thing was Jesus was born in spring to summer. I think I've heard more scholars say summer.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real actual date. I mean,
it wasn't in the winter solstice, and that's what we...
Yeah, back then it wasn't the Gregorian calendar anyway. It was more of the Jewish calendar, which I think now we're in like year 4000, so who even knows?
Time's relative.
And so that is true, and that is proof. But it was originally a pagan holiday. That was like a pagan day full of pagan rituals, and they were like, they were like trying to get rid of the pagan religion, so they moved their biggest holiday to their holiday to try and appropriate it and assimilate and assume. And so it's kind of shitty because they were very much murderous of the pagan people.
Okay. God only knows that's never happened before.
All I know about the pagan religion is all the stuff that the Catholics did to them.
That the Christianity just kind of came in and just wiped out as much as they possibly could. That's just kind of how religion works. So,
That's kind of how Christianity worked.
but you know what? Let's get back to the finance side of this. You know, the more exciting side of the Christmas holiday. Oh, there he comes. There he is. Oh, is he going to speak into the mic? Nope, I'm going to speak into the mic. Hey, buddy, you want to do something about him?
Nah, keep going. I'm listening.
Oh, well. All right.
We'll just do it like this. Go sideways with it.
So the average consumer spends roughly around $602.65 on gifts over the holiday season. Have you ever spent that much on gifts?
No, I mean, no, but I am of a different tax bracket than most people.
Yeah, we've got that podcast money.
I don't know. I usually just get one person. No, not one person. I usually just get one No, I just said it wrong again. One gift a person.
Mm-hmm.
But I make it kind of halfway meaningful or practical.
Yeah.
So I don't really spend. I'd wager, depending on the year, $200 to $400. I remember the first year I was a part of my wife's family. I wanted them to like me, so I spent a good penny on all the kids. We just went down the toy aisles at Walmart, and I was just like, grab them all. And so,
see, I can't get behind that because there's no point. I mean, so what's yours and Ariana's? Yeah, for like a little bit, and then they just shove the toys off and never play with them ever again. And so that kills me because I'm like, well, I spent good money on that, and you guys are going to play with it for like 2 days and then throw it away.
That's how life goes. You're never going to give a kid a toy that they play with forever.
You just never give a kid a toy then.
So you don't think that kid should have toys?
Fuck no. Make your own toys. Make your own toys.
No, you're such a dumbass Ron Swanson way of viewing the world. It's like, why would you buy clothes? Don't you own a loom?
No, hold on. No, the reason I'm saying that...
Don't give a kid toys. Tell them to go plow the field if they want something to do.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is why am I going to go spend $602, which if I were to take... Because the way that I look at money is a little different than a lot of people. I mean, obviously, most finance people look at it this way, but I could take $602, go and invest that, have a good chance at a decent return, and then that $602 might actually be worth, over the course of a few years, is like a couple $1,000.
Everyone who's listening just thought the same thing as me, and it's, this guy's such a douche.
Why? That's how you should view money.
Okay. Oh, that's how you should, but no, that's
not how people do it, but people are normally wrong with that shit.
Here's what we're not going to do, and it's me and you are not going to argue.
All right, well, yeah, fine.
Okay, for 2 reasons. We're not going to argue without the mediator, because usually there's someone to pull us out of it, and we're not going to argue about finances. And I'm just going to tell you a little tidbit, and then we'll keep moving forward. My dad has the same view as you, and me and him got into it, not an argument, but like a discussion about it, where I kind of crushed his views just a little bit in the car, and to the point where I was like, I kind of feel bad for that, because I was like, well... because he was like, well, just do this. And I was like, well, here's why that's wrong. And he was like, well, just do this. And I'm like, well, here's why that one's wrong, too.
We'll do it afterwards because I'm interested in finding out what you're going to say, because this is a tried and true method that has worked over a lot of years for a lot of people. Just don't spend your money on things that bring little to no value.
Move on.
We're talking about a finance topic. Let's get to it. And I didn't even finish. Because you actually would lead me, if we didn't get off on that little tangent, to the next portion of that, and that is that people who have children under the age of 18, on average, spend $850.38.
Oh, I thought the 600 was the average.
No.
But
no, that's for people who don't have children.
Now, is that taking into account everyone who has one? Like, is that all children, families with one child?
Yeah, that's just all children.
I would want to see. I would not that I'm saying that devalues the credit, but I would want to see, just out of my pure interest, families with 1 child, 2 child, 3 child.
Yeah, having like a broken down bracket would be pretty
all
good.
The way up to like the Duggars, like the 19 children family. Like, what are they doing?
Well, they don't need toys because the children entertain themselves together, so they're just like they're like, you'll be lucky if you get a meal this year, okay? So just play with your brother and sister and just leave me alone.
Do you know the amount of money that I have to pull in for my salary just to support a basic living for 19 children, let alone buying you each individual birthday gifts? Do you think, because I know nothing about these families, except for the outlandish amount of children they have, do you think that any children have doubled up birthdays obviously on accident, but do you think any of them are like where Dougie was born like October 2nd, 2005, and like Tucker was born October 2nd, like 2009. But
Okay,
obviously
so
not on purpose.
I've got a funny story for you. I think we might have talked about it before, but my niece and nephew have the exact same birthday, 2 years apart.
No, really?
Exact, and that's not even a lot of children. There's only two. They just
That's
could not have
totally
planned that
awful.
out better. So
That's insane.
they always had birthdays together.
I think I would hate that.
Up until a certain point where they were just like, we're old enough to have our own, give us our own.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think they had the argument as kids of being like, well, if we're only going to have one and it's going to be for the both of us, it better be a pretty bitchin' party.
A pretty good one. Yeah. No kidding.
So that's, and I thought that you and I had talked about it before, but
I'm sure we
not.
have.
We've talked about a lot of stuff. So a whopping 75% of parents with children under the age of 18 said that their fear was disappointing their children during the holidays because they just didn't want their children to feel like they went without.
It's one of those things. It's like it's a big pressure because you don't want to feel like you did shitty, but then you can't also, like, it's so hard to instill in your children and in your whole family, like the idea of like of all of that being like, it should be more about this instead of this. It's so expensive, and everything, because then they're just going to grow up thinking that, and they're going to be like, well, okay, we get that, but then when you see the rest of the world, and the rest of the world is celebrating it the way that they told you not to, it's just like, well, it's just so much. Wow, did you just hear those dogs bark?
I did hear them. This is a dog barking episode.
This is a weird episode, man. These dogs are never like that loud and active, and like he's sniffing around the record player.
Porter doesn't hardly ever bark during these episodes at all, and I think him and Layla were in there fighting. I guess it's just one of those nights.
It's the witching hour.
Yeah, it's just one of those
dogs.
nights.
But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I think it's so hard to instill that into a family value when the rest of the world does not even
do the
help.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, every piece of media would tell you the opposite. Every other family in school would tell you the opposite. I kind of have that same idea for like, because I don't know anybody who's Jewish, or I haven't in a while since Boy Scouts, but I wonder what it's like to grow up in that faith, not celebrating the big majority difference between Christmas and Hanukkah, and what that's like going like, well, we have our own thing, we don't do that. And we have our own traditions, no, we don't have a tree. But when every single piece of media is tailored more towards Christmas than it is Hanukkah.
Well,
all these kids watching cartoons going, I want a tree. And it's like, well, we don't really do that. We do our candles.
It's weird to see that, like, reading over this study, that 61% of people just don't like the holidays because of the financial strain that it puts on everything. But yet it's some of the biggest times of the year. Of course, for one, you're rounding out the year, but not only are you rounding out the
biggest capitalist country in the world. So
exactly. So that's how they pinpoint it. But when you really stop back and say, like, honestly, I'm not a big fan of Christmas. I don't like Christmas. My favorite holiday is Halloween. That's just my favorite because I just like it's joyous. It's at its purest sense. It's kids that just want to go out and have fun with their friends and get candy and just like trick or treat and have their own thing. And then you have a bunch of really good movies that are on, and it's like the perfect time of the year with the weather.
I'm a big fan.
The past couple of years that hasn't been the case because we had snow last year.
There's precipitation every time in Springfield or wherever we grew up. I remember as a kid, dude, like every Halloween it would have bad weather, and then it rained like 4 proms in a row for our high school.
See, that never happened. That never happened with me.
No rain?
No, because it didn't start happening until like 5 years ago.
I went to 3 proms, and it rained every prom.
Actually, I take that about 6 years ago. Halloween, there had never been really a lot of storms until 6 years ago. And then I just noticed that it just consistently kept doing it. And I was just like, man, this kind of sucks. And then, like, even Halloween's like a less of a turnout now than it
this year. I wonder what it's going to be like.
Zero. Absolutely zero. I bet there's hardly nothing.
I doubt that it's unchanged.
Really? You really believe it? Because it's already on a decline. I think you're just adding it in.
I think the people are gonna be like, well, the people we're going to be going trick or treating with, we're going to be around anyway, so we don't socially distance with them anyway. So I guess we can go trick or treating, and then a big part of Halloween is masks. Anyway, I think you're going to see a rise in mask costumes.
Your doctor. Well, this is the fifth doctor I've seen in 5 people.
This is pirate with a mask on, so scurvy. But and then I think they're going to be like, well, you can get candy and socially distance, I don't think people are going to think it's that big a deal, at least around here.
I just remember, every single year, there's been a steady decrease. And I just feel like this gives them the perfect excuse for them just to go, I don't care. It's not worth it.
I felt the same until I got to the house where I'm at now. And the first year, we were like, wow, we got none. We got none of them. And then last year, I just got one. I got a pretty good sized bag of candy, but I only got one because I was like, last year we didn't get anybody. And dude, I ran out of candy in 10 minutes. There were so many trick-or-treaters. And then I was just like, well, hell, I ran out of candy. And then I was like, well, let me go with my wife and her nieces and nephews and everything. And we walked around with them. And there was a lot in this, where I live. I'm not going to dox myself. But in this area, dude, there was a lot. And it made me happy to see. I think you're right. I think Halloween's a pretty cool holiday. My favorite's 4th of July.
I get that. I like Super Independence, and it's a good time of the year.
I mean, fuck all the history of it. I just like the celebration of
shooting off fireworks.
No, I mean that's part of it.
Big things go boom
as a kid. But I like the fireworks, and it's always nice. We've had pretty good luck for the past few years with 4th of July's as a turn of weather, especially this year. Pool parties, barbecues, family get-togethers, kids running around with sparklers and firecrackers. Then at night, it's just such a spectacle to see. I'm not one in my life now to want to go by and light off a bunch of fireworks. I used to be, but I love watching them. And this year, you were there. It was 5 straight hours of fireworks in my neighborhood.
Well, fuck it. I mean, we started the podcast roughly around that time, or the Can't Sit Still podcast. And we were having issues with some of the audio because there was fireworks going off.
It was fireworks
in the background
every day for a month. And then when it hit 4th of July, it was so many because a lot of the local fireworks that happen every year, festival's the wrong word, but official ones got canceled because of COVID. So everyone went and bought their own. And I don't know. I just like the vibe. We were out in my backyard playing party games, somewhere in the pool, somewhere we had a fire going. My wife was barbecuing, and just fireworks were going off. We were listening to music. It was just a great time. I like that. That's my vibe. That's my holiday.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Everything hits just right for me for Halloween because you got the World Series is around that time. You've got, which obviously I'm a big baseball fan, so you got the World Series. You got the good weather. That's about the time that I'm out in the woods. Digging, ginseng and gold and silver,
digging holes.
like that. Just digging holes.
Trying to get to China,
I'm going to get there eventually. But yeah, I mean, there's just everything hits just right. And then not to mention, I love scary movies. I love, for one, clearly, I love candy. Have you seen me? So if you're watching YouTube, you can definitely see me, but look at me. I scream guy who ate too much chocolate.
You've lost so much weight over the past year.
I fluctuated so heavy.
I think I'm not saying that you're fucking Zac Efron over here, but dude, you're not as big as you used to be. And your eating habits have changed so much that for me to hear you say those jokes, it's
yeah, tell that Wendy's Baconator double that I just scarfed down before this episode that my eating patterns have changed.
Tell that Wendy's 50 nuggets for $10 that I started losing weight because they don't know.
Yeah. They're like, oh, well, if you look behind you, you'll find it. But yeah, holidays are they're weird, honestly. But there's a lot of pros and cons. Yeah, to have the quantifiable stats, and then almost everyone you talk to just goes, I hate Christmas music starting so early. In stores and shit.
Yeah, I feel like that's just people just bitching to bitch. I'm like, dude, if you're really that upset about it, it's oh my God, quit bitching.
I don't know. I do right now. A lot of Halloween stuff is starting to already go on sale, and it's that's too fucking early.
If we go thrifting a lot, and there's a Goodwill here in town that has Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas stuff already out.
Yeah, I'm not
They're all
surprised.
set up. I could go buy a Christmas tree right now and buy Christmas decorations there. And I'm like, well, it is. And we went there September, like the first weekend of September. So I was like, they are real early.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Holidays. That's weird.
There's
So
pros and cons.
hopefully you'll learn something about Halloween or about holidays and how people apparently are constantly terrified because of the financial stress that they cause everybody.
I think the best part about holidays is how you celebrate it in the terms of a get together. I feel like holidays are the best reason to bring people together. Like our Christmas Eve party that we had last year that we're definitely going to have again this year because it was such a good time last year.
Hopefully, I'm in a new property by the time that we have a New Year's Eve party, and we'll do it out of my new property. If we end up being
I don't know about that. We can do it
no. I kind of want to do it out of the new house. New house is better. So
no. Do you want to move on to my topic?
Yeah, let's go.
We had on time.
Let's do that thing.
I don't know how long to stretch this one out or when to cut it shorter.
I'll tell you. I don't want you to feel like you have a time constraint, so I'll tell you. I'll just go. Hey, whoa. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, I thought you were saying like I'll tell you how much time we have left, and I'm like
no. I want you to talk, and then I'll let you know if you're over. I'll just say, hey, whoa, shut the fuck up.
This is my topic is I think it's pretty funny. It's the 1904 Men's Olympic Marathon. Now, it's in St. Louis. How it got to be in St. Louis is a story in and of itself because it was supposed to be in Chicago, and St. Louis wanted to have the World Fair that year, and like I think that's when I don't know if that's when like the arch was. I don't know when the arch was made.
What's ever happened to the World's Fair?
I don't know. No, the arch was in 63. What was I thinking? They unveiled something in St. Louis in 04. I can't remember what it was.
Couldn't begin to tell.
But and then there was a little thing called the Russo-Japanese War going on at the time. So that was kind of taking up a little bit of like people in certain areas of the world. So the turnout was 12 nations showed up to the Olympics that year. 12. And it was such a weird time because it was taking place at the same time as the World's Fair, which had a big push for like kind of like a freak show type thing. It was kind of offensive. And so when it came to the Olympic marathon, which was like the big thing, and in history we now look at it as the biggest thing that happened that year, there were 32 runners from 4 nations. That's all who came. 10 Greeks, 2 South African tribesmen. To be fair, they were there for the freak show exhibit. They were part of the exhibit, which is very offensive, wrong, and they ran it barefoot because no one gave them shoes.
Did they win?
No.
Okay.
So, spoilers, they didn't. And then 1 Cuban, and he was a Cuban mailman.
Was it Mark Cuban?
Yes, it was Mark Cuban.
Oh, cool. I love that guy.
The story goes that he was like just the friendliest mailman in his area, and that he ran the distance of Cuba to raise funds to get to America because at the time, there's no planes. You got to take a boat there. And his story is pretty funny, and we'll get to that in just a little minute. Just give me a little minute. They're all lined up. Let me tell you about the track. The track they're running, 5 miles?
Mm-hmm.
All dirt road. Mixed in with some cut gravel. 7 hills that range from 100 to 300 foot verticals. And it took place on almost all public roads that they did not close for the marathon. So they were dodging horses, carts, trains, and, it's 1904, so there's cars, but not a lot. So the occasional car. All at the same time, these things are all kicking up dust from these shitty roads that these runners are having to breathe in. So this is also at the time where health is kind of, what is it? Doctors are kind of just like, they take a 45-minute seminar and then they get given a scalpel, And so the Olympic director wanted to study dehydration. So he planned for there to be 1 water stop 11 miles in. It was a dirty well that then plagued all the runners with dysentery.
Oh my god.
So this is where it gets funny. I didn't write down anybody's name because there was just a lot of names and a lot of them were foreign and I didn't want to butcher them. So I was just like, you know what, we'll just refer to them and what they did. So our Cuban friend, dressed in a long shirt, presumably wool, heavy dark pants, and street shoes. And one of the other Olympians kind of took pity on him and gave him scissors so he could cut his pants into shorts. And so he's running in basically jean shorts. And so one of the Africans got ran off by a pack of wild dogs a few miles in. One man got so sick and vomited from the water that he had to just quit the race. One man was sighted passed out on the side of the road because he was vomiting blood, and he got that because he had a ripped stomach lining and his esophagus was covered in dust. So this guy was really going through
this
it.
This guy was not having a good day.
Let me take you back to our Cuban friend.
Oh, take
our
back
Cuban
to the
friend was noted in the race as stopping and talking to every single spectator on the side of the road.
In my country, it is impolite not to stop and talk to people.
Then he took a detour because he realized he has not eaten in over 40 hours. Why has he not eaten, Delivan? Do you want to know why? No. When he made the boat trip from Cuba to America, the first thing he did his first night in America was gamble away all of his money. So the only way he got to the race in St. Louis was by hitchhiking and walking. And then he got there and didn't have any money to buy food. So he ran by an orchard and was like, oh, great, and started picking up apples off the ground and eating them. And they were rotten. And so he just kept going through the race with stomach aches and cramps. Another man was cramping really bad, and so he just gave up, and he just called a car. And the car just took him to the finish line. No. The car was taking him to the finish line and broke down. And so he was like, screw it. About 19 miles in, he was like, screw it. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I'm just going to leg it for the rest of the way. Accidentally won.
I was going to say, here's the thing. So he gets in the car. He gets all the way there. I mean, he more or less is like, fuck it, I'm done. But then was like, but I got to at least, I came all the way here. I did this. I got to finish it. And now he's walking away with the trophy. Because apparently I bet there's no rules against car.
No, there are. So
there are.
He takes it the entire way. They go, congratulations, oh my God. I think they said Theodore Roosevelt's daughter was there congratulating the participants. And he took it all the way to the medaling ceremony. They're placing the medal on him, and someone goes, that's the guy who drove here. So he gets disqualified as he's getting the first place medal, so they give it to the guy who came in second place. Let's talk about the guy who came in second place.
Do you think Teddy Roosevelt's daughter was a looker?
I doubt it.
I think she probably had a handlebar mustache, much like him.
Let me give it a Google. Teddy Roosevelt daughter.
Here, hold on. Share the screen once you find it.
Well, there's two of them.
Do you know which one it was?
No, we got Ethel and Alice.
Show both of them. I bet both of them are not lookers.
Ethel ain't bad.
All right, let's see what you got. Throw it up there.
Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Here's Ethel Roosevelt. Sorry for everyone on the who's listening to the audio. We'll do our best to describe her. Just kind of like she's just a good-looking gal.
Yeah, no, she is.
And so it's not bad. Here's Alice. I have not looked at Alice yet.
Okay.
No, she's not bad either.
No, better than you'd expect. Apparently, the mother must have been a looker herself.
Roosevelt. Well, let's look. Who was his wife? Children. There's Theodore Roosevelt Jr., but we're not going to count that.
This is what you're learning on today's podcast.
Yeah, I guess.
What does
Theodore? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's not worry about that right now, because I don't know which mom was the mother to which daughter, and I'd just rather not try and figure that out right now. But let's talk about the man who ended up being in first place, getting the medal. So he was running, and about 10 miles in, he hasn't made it to the first water stop yet. Oh, I forgot the biggest part of this. So, most of them start in the morning. Most of the marathons start in the morning. They decided to start this one in the afternoon.
I thought you were going to say midnight. They were going to start
in
at
St.
midnight.
Louis in the summer. Temperature was 92 degrees, and the humidity was in the 90s, making
Well,
a heat index of 135.
so their goal was that they were going to be running through the night, so it would cool them down,
They're
and then
not
they
gonna
were
be
going to run through
night.
the morning.
It only takes 3 hours or like 3-4 hours to do it.
Oh, well, okay. So I'm just thinking because I'm fat, I would walk it, which would take quite a while. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd still be doing it. If I
today,
started a marathon in
today,
1904, I'd still be trying to finish it today.
I'd get lost
So
halfway through, take a wrong turn somewhere, still be
end
looking
up
for
in
that finish
Indiana.
line.
We went the wrong way. So 135 degrees. This guy he's 10 miles in. He hasn't made it to the first water stop yet. So he starts begging his coach, who is driving like beside him and in front of him in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, please give me some water. All his coach will let him have is he keeps dabbing his mouth with a wet sponge that was dipped in distilled water. That's all he'll let him have. I do not know why. And so he's begging. He's hurting at this point. So the team doctor gives him a mix of I don't want to mispronounce this, strychnine, that's what it is, strychnine and egg whites, which is poison. It is very toxic to the body, and that's all they will give him. And they've given it to him multiple times, and then he starts going like looking a little sickly. So you know what you got to do? You finally got to let him drink. So they give him brandy. So he is getting his mouth washed out with distilled water on a sponge, strychnine and egg whites, and then brandy. And then every time for the rest of the race, whenever he gets thirsty or he starts looking a little woozy, they just give him more brandy. So he is ending this race shit-faced. He is out of his mind and very sick. So around the 20-mile mark, they note that he started to hallucinate and had absolutely no idea where he was going, how much further to the race there was. He did not know where in the world he was or what he was doing there. So they just give him more brandy, and he finishes the race by making it to the finish line, and his trainer has to carry him across. Throughout the entire race, he lost 8 pounds, and in order for him to stand up and receive his medal, it took a team of doctors over about an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get him healthy enough to stand up. So he came in first. Let's go back to our Cuban friend. So he's cramping the rest of the way, throwing up, severe stomach aches, still makes it in 4th place.
Good for him.
Out of the 32 runners, 14 finish because of the horrible conditions that they put them in. This was the longest Olympic marathon in history, and has, I think, between the slowest times, over an hour between like the second slowest finish time compared to this one. And like it's like from the fastest finish time, it's like 2 hours difference. Like this guy took almost 4 hours to finish this race, which is pretty good, but for an Olympic athlete, a little rough considering that he was drunk, poisoned, and probably sickened with dysentery, while at the same time running in a heat index of 135, which they try and keep their marathons to around 40 to 50 for the heat index.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is about tripling what is normally expected in the heat. And that's just basically, it just kind of fizzles out. Like that's kind of how the rest of the whole Olympic ceremony, or not ceremony, the whole Olympics of this year is a story in and of itself. But this is just the mainstay of just people just sickeningly running across the finish line with the first place man almost dying, and the 4th place man just being a nice little Cuban guy who's stopping, talking to everybody, stops to eat poison or rotten apples, and is running in street shoes, a wool shirt, and heavy shorts that he had to cut from his pants.
I don't know why, but I'm imagining this guy to look like the Cuban father from George Lopez.
I picture a sick-ass mustache.
Oh, then yeah, him.
Oh, they also said they noted that he wore a beret the whole time, which I don't think was that important, but I guess for style,
Notable.
he had a beret.
Notable. That's insane. All of those accounts are just absolutely insane.
You know, I was like reading this and watching this. Normally, when I like pick a topic, I'll try and find like a podcast on it, YouTube video, maybe like a Smithsonian, Wikipedia, NPR sort of article about it. And yeah, all of them is just like, there's so much more weird shit that happened in this fair. And it's just like, this is just such a weird one. It's just, can you imagine today if only 32, or not 32, if only 12 nations showed up to an Olympic event?
I can see it. We're all eventually going to get so pissed off with each other. We're just going to say, we're done with this. We're not going to, whoever shows up, shows up. We're not calling it.
I mean,
it's not the Olympics anymore.
Before and stuff like that, but only 12? That's surprising. I know there's a difference in
how many normally show up?
Huh?
How many normally show
up? Hold on.
Watch it be like 13. It's like, well, it's not so different. It's definitely.
I know that there's
13.
a difference between nations and countries. Let's see. The 2020 Olympics were pushed to 2021 due to COVID-19 and will welcome 205.
Ooh, yeah,
because I'm pretty sure there's like 196 countries and like 200 over like 216 nations. How many nations are there? No, there's 195 countries. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking how many nations because I know that there's a difference.
This is just a podcast now. So it's JJ Google shit.
Yeah, really. Well, today was weird. So there's 195 UN recognized country. There's 250 countries in the world that are not UN recognized. So out of 250 countries, 205 are expected to come to Tokyo next year. So you'd have to have a pretty big like civil unrest around the whole world to only have 12 nations show up. And today,
you know what? I could see it. I could see it.
More than that showed up to Hitler's Olympics.
How many showed up to Hitler's Olympics?
That in perspective.
How many showed up to Hitler's?
I don't know. How many nations? How many? This is more just Googling.
Yeah, just more Google. JJ Google shit. It's going to be the name of this episode.
I don't... I think it was just a normal Olympics. Because it was right before World War II. Isn't that when... Oh, really? 49 nations attended the Berlin Olympics in 1932. Okay. 1936. So 49 showed up to Hitler's Olympics.
So less people showed up to the 1904 Olympics.
Well, we're also dealing with completely different times. So they had planes then in the 32 Olympics or the 36 Olympics. They had no planes in the 04.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there was a different mode of travel. You know, there were more cars readily available. And it was in Europe in 36, which is more, you could just drive from, Spain to Berlin or whatever. You can't really drive from, England to St. Louis.
No, not really. All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead.
I had a lot of different interesting tidbits in there. That's the type of stuff that's interesting to me, but probably nobody else.
I don't know. Probably going to have some. I'll definitely be asking you about it after we get off because I'm going to have some questions.
Here's one Google automatic question because it's like people also asked who won the 1936 Olympics. Doesn't make sense. It's not just one person, but it has an answer, and it's Jesse Owens.
Good for him. That guy is the unanimous winner of the 1936 Olympics.
Hell yeah, dude.
Good for him.
He pissed off Hitler, so good for him.
You think he's still alive?
Oh. No way, dude. Yeah. Well, let's do one more Google before we log off.
One last Google.
When did Jesse Owens die? The important
Google. When did Jesse Owens die?
He died in 1980.
Well, you know what? Not that long of a life. Oh, well, how old was he when he was in the Olympics?
He was born in 1913.
Okay. That's not bad.
So it's an okay run, but he could have gone longer.
Yeah. Yeah, what? So,
American hero.
Yeah, 67 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good for him, I guess. Or not good
for
him. I don't know.
Not a bad run.
Not a bad run for those times. He didn't have to go through the constant pissing and shitting that apparently the 1904 Olympics was.
Yeah, the dysentery that plagued the 1904 Olympics. I wonder if he learned anything of use from that, or if he was just like, "That was probably a bad idea. I didn't really get much out of all these people almost dying of dehydration on a marathon." Or if he was just like, no, we found out a lot about the body.
Yeah, the body can't take as much as you think it can.
Oh, when it's 135 degrees heat index outside, people get thirsty.
And when they get thirsty, they get delusional. So, all right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and close out here. I'll run through the outro, and guess what, guys? For the outro,
We finally did it.
We've got a Twitter. It's at Nothing Nuggets on Twitter. If you if you would like to go ahead and maybe watch us play some games with our friend Caius, he's at on Twitch at Hipster Caius, and then. Another thing, we just did a collaboration with the Mind Grenade podcast that's here in town. Another local podcast of ours. We did one, and that's on the Can't Sit Still. It's gonna be up next week here, and so that is something that you can look forward to if you haven't been over there. I highly suggest going over there for that. So if you would just come on over, watch it, and you guys should be interested, hopefully. And we're going to be having more topics moving forward, and you'll have an episode next week. So appreciate the listen. Thank you, everybody. And JJ, anything?
I think for what I'm going to do next week, I think I'm just going to go ahead and hit the random button on Wikipedia, and we're just going to see what we land on. I'm going to do a topic about that.
There you go.
So if I come in next week just talking about like the history of tires, well, I'll try and make it interesting.
Here's the thing. We're all going to be interested in the history of tires. How could you not be?
I think people will be more interested in watching me try and make it interesting.
I worked so hard by the time that you ended that sentence to try to come up with a tire pun. Got nothing. Nothing at all.
It's going to be tiring.